All right, let's talk about the teams in the state of Florida and their NFL win totals this year. Those are out now. I love to play the ESPN win total game, and I'm pretty confident on two of them, and the third one is going to be a struggle. Let's start with Tampa Bay, who's over under a 6.5 wins. I watched their first preseason game last night, and you can't take too much from that. But what you can take is Baker Mayfield's issues are not fixed, and Kyle Trask was an absolute disaster. They have a bad situation at quarterback, and the rest of that team, talented though they are, cannot make up from it. I am one of the teams I'm most confident on is that Tampa Bay will go under 6.5 wins. I think Tampa Bay is a very good chance to be the number one pick in the draft. A lot of people are saying Arizona. I disagree with that because I think Kyler Murray will come back and actually play well and maybe play them out of that number one pick. Tampa Bay is a good bet to be the worst team in the NFL, get that number one pick, and then maybe get a franchise-changing quarterback in Caleb Williams. But they're not going to be good this year. So Tampa Bay under 6.5 is something I'm pretty confident on. I'm actually pretty confident on Jacksonville over 10 wins. That's more an indictment of the rest of that division, which is not in a good place right now. Tennessee's going to be pretty bad. Houston is a work in progress. C.J. Stroud had a tough start to preseason, but they're going to be a work in progress. And I just think Jacksonville can dominate that division. They should win 5 or 6 of those games, and then they only got to win the other. They only got to win 4 or 5 of the other ones to get to 10 wins, and 5 or 6 to get to 11. Jacksonville is getting better. I think a second year under Doug Peterson will do wonders for Trevor Lawrence. So Jacksonville over 10 wins. I'm pretty confident they're going to win that NFC South again, and I'm pretty confident they're going to get to 11 wins or get to over 10, get to at least 10. The number's 10. In some places, it'll be 9.5. The tough one are the Miami Dolphins because that division on paper looks pretty tough. A lot of people think the Patriots are going to improve. I think that'll be true if Bailey Zappi is the quarterback. I think if Mac Jones is the quarterback, I'm not sure that's the case. I'm definitely down on the Jets. I'm definitely anti-Aaron Rodgers. I don't like him. He's a jackass. And I think the Jets are going to be a totally huge disappointment. But if I'm wrong about that, if the Jets are good, you know the Bills are going to be pretty good. They're a walk-up 11-12 win team, no matter how bad the coach is, and no matter how many picks Josh Allen throws, it seems like. So Miami 9.5 is tough. I'm over because I think the Jets aren't very good, and I think the Patriots might not pick the right quarterback. But that's the tough one right there. That's the one if you're thinking about one of those parlays or stuff. Miami 9.5 is one I'd probably stay away from because that could go either way, 9 or 10. And if Tua gets hurt, it's going the other way for sure. The other quarterbacks were kind of for Miami in the first preseason game last night. Tua did not play. So it could be an interesting year in Florida. I can certainly see Jacksonville and Miami in the playoffs. I can't see any way Tampa's any good. But that's what's going on here in the state of Florida with the NFL teams. I think we're going to have 2 ones that are in contention and one that's going to be the worst team in the NFL. By the time you watch this, England may very well have won the Women's World Cup. Almost all the big guns have been knocked out. Brazil, France, Germany, the United States. England's clearly the best team left, although they will be playing Australia, the host nation, in the semifinals. My focus is more on their coach, Sarina Wiegman, who might be the best international coach, male or female, coaching men's or women's soccer in the world. She has a style that is not only entertaining to watch, it is going for the win. She's not scared. She doesn't coach scared. She's not a conservative manager. She's an aggressive manager. She's the kind of manager that I would love to see manage my favorite football club, my favorite international team, in this case the United States, because she's about winning, positivity, playing great style, and she may be the best out there. I would love at some point to see her coach a men's football team, whether it's internationally or at the club level, because I think she might be the woman that can do it. Sarina Wiegman is a star, and if she wins this World Cup, she'll have won the European Championships last summer, the World Cup this summer. Not a lot of teams from Europe do that, win those 2 tournaments back-to-back on either the men's or the women's side. And she should be lauded and recognized as one of the best managers in the world, period. Doesn't matter what the gender is, doesn't matter what the game is. She is in the top bracket, especially if England win. Serena Wiedemann, remember that name. She is a star. We are in the last year of the Pac-12 conference existing, a conference that has been around in some form or fashion for over a century. A conference that's won more national championships when you take all the college sports put together that are sanctioned by the NCAA than any other conference in the country.
Oh, damn!
Jokingly by some, but truthfully called the Conference of Champions, as Bill Walton often refers to it when he's doing Pac-12 games on ESPN. And it is now about to go away. The Big 12 has won the battle between the two to survive, and the Big 10 has plucked off the very best of the conference by taking Southern California, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. This is sad. Yes, it's a failure of leadership by the people running the Pac-12 conference, that they didn't know what they were doing on television, that they couldn't get their Pac-12 network on any kind of a wide distribution and not on DirecTV at all, which was insane. But this shouldn't be happening. A great conference is going to die for a mishmash conference to survive like the Big 12, and it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And when you remember that the Big 12 killed off the Southwest Conference, which had been around for nearly 9 decades, and the Big 8, which had been around at that point for over 9 decades, and now it's going to win the battle and kill off another conference that's been around over a century, you see what a terrible state college athletics is in. College football has done this and has been the driver of this. And at some point, what about the rest of the sports? How in the world is it going to make sense to have a basketball league that has 20 teams in it or 18 teams in it and is going to be spread out from one coast to the other? How's that going to make sense for the student athletes who are student athletes and not athlete students? The women's volleyball players, the soccer players, the field hockey players, the lacrosse players, male and female, the baseball players, the whoever it is. How's it going to make sense when you're going to ask University of Maryland students in College Park to play midweek conference games in Eugene, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, or have to go to Los Angeles over a weekend to play their conference games, as you're going to have to do? What?
Do your homework on the bus.
Do your homework on the bus going all the way to Eugene, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington?
You got time.
You realize how long that is, coast to coast, in a bus? No, you're flying, and you're doing your homework on the plane.
Okay,
is what
fine,
you're doing.
Fine. On the plane.
It's still no. This is I can accept that football and even basketball, that the student athlete idea, at least at Division I, is kind of dead. I can kind of accept that. It sucks because there's plenty of football and plenty of basketball players who actually want to go to college for the idea of getting an education that sets them up for a professional life that's not sports. But that's the way things are. It sucks, it's terrible, but there's a lot of people, most of your college athletes are not football and basketball. And yes, I know they're in non-revenue sports and all that. But most of your college athletes are not athlete students. They are student athletes. They do hit the books. They do care about their education. Playing their sport is a means to an end, and that end is a college education and a diploma. And we are treating them with no kind of consideration. The rest of college athletics needs to be unmoored from college football. We have to have these gargantuan mutant conferences in college football. Fair enough. We shouldn't have them in any other sport. And if you want one thing that will make me say yes to expanding the NCAA tournament, it would be saying, okay, college basketball and the rest of the sports are not going to be like football. They're going to be taken away from those conference configurations. And we're going to go back to regional conferences that are no bigger than 10 to 12 teams. And if that happens, you're going to have 40 or 50 conferences. And at that point, you have to go to 96. And that's fine. That's what needs to happen.
The whole idea of college dying with the students pretty much skipping college as far as at least in basketball.
Well, in basketball, some people are like, well, we're headed for semi-pro football. We're headed for basically...
Yeah, where they have a G football league. Right?
Well, the issue is you can't throw out the brand identity of Ohio State, Notre Dame, Florida. Rivalries are what sell the game. That competition, that beating your local rival is what makes college sports profitable, what makes it sell, what gets its ratings. It's bad enough that college football has lost that idea and eventually is going to fail because you can't be, even college football is not too big to fail, and that's what they're going to find out with these conferences. When you kill off local rivalries and kill off the things that make people want to turn up, which is, I want to see my team win, but I also want to see the other team lose really badly. The same thing's going to happen to college basketball if they're not careful. So the NCAA's got to step in and say, all right, we're only doing this in college football. We're not doing this in the other sports. And let's go back to our traditional Big Ten, our traditional ACC, our traditional Pac-12, the Big 8, the Southwest. Let's go back to all of that. And yes, it's going to be hard to figure out a way to do it and make the money work and all these other things. But let's do that. Let's have regional conferences that are small and regional size, that students can be student athletes and not get killed by travel. And let's have an NCAA tournament that really is representative instead of a closed shop for the very biggest schools that leaves everybody else out. Because let me tell you something, NCAA, your golden goose is that NCAA basketball tournament. And if it turns into just the big teams and the power conferences, the football schools dominating it, you will kill that golden goose. Because it is the other schools. It is the upsets that sell that tournament, that make that tournament worth $6 billion or whatever the last contract was that you signed with CBS to do it. Don't let college football kill college athletics, NCAA. Charlie Baker's the new president. It's time to go from, well, we're very concerned by this, to some kind of action. And if you have to go to Congress to do it, then go to Congress and figure it out. But we cannot have this situation where we're going to have 20-team conferences in baseball, in basketball, in lacrosse, and other sports, and we're going to make it impossible for student athletes who want to be student athletes to be student athletes.
Where is Aaron right now?
I will almost die with joy if that happens. I'm rooting for that more than I'm rooting to wake up tomorrow morning, to be honest.
And what happens?
For the Jets to be so bad that they stop playing Aaron Rodgers, because if he plays a certain amount of snaps, that pick becomes a first-round pick instead of a second-round pick. And if they're really terrible, like if he stinks or gets hurt and they stink, they can't play him at the end of the year.
Right.
And that will be just hilarious if that's what happens. That would be so awesome.
You're a hater.
Hey, I'm a truth teller. That's one of the best franchises in the NFL. They paid him $50 million and he treated him like dirt under their shoe. He is a cockhead. And he took less money this year to help the Jets, even though he wouldn't do it in Green Bay because he's a cockhead. Total asshole. Him with no lube. He and the Packers were so bad they lost to Taylor Heineke in Washington last year. So that is bad.
Yeah. Oof.
That is terrible.